The Environmental Protection Agency is being run by industry. There's no simpler way to put it. And after a year and a half of working to repeal protections for American citizens, they're now going after a protection that, if repealed, is going to allow asbestos to enter our lives in a big way again. Joining me to explain and discuss some of the other major stories of the week is Farron Cousins. He's executive editor of the Trial Lawyer magazine, and we got stories to talk about this week. How do you explain it? EPA comes up and says, yeah, we know that asbestos has been killing people for decades, thousands of people. As you know, I handled the very first asbestos cases tried in this country. Mesothelioma cases, cancer cases. Every scientist in the country, everywhere in the world is legitimate scientists. Yes, asbestos will kill you. What's your take on the EPA here?
This was Scott Pruitt's. It was his real, swan song. Right before he resigned, he came up with his new rule at the EPA. They're calling it the Significant New Use Rule, so that they can look at these old chemicals and substances that basically had been regulated to the point of almost keeping them out of our lives because they kill us. But asbestos is one of the first 10 that's going to be reevaluated. But at the same time of this reevaluation, they also redid the reevaluation process, which means they no longer are even allowed to look at whether or not something that goes into the air, the water, or the soil, if that affects you, which means asbestos, which has to be breathed in to cause the problems, that's no longer taken into consideration when they evaluate whether or not to start using it more frequently here in the U.S.
Interesting take on this story. This is obvious. This is banned almost everywhere on the globe. It's banned everywhere. The place we're going to be getting it is from Russia, because they're happy to ship it to us. As a matter of fact, I saw in a story where, almost sick humor, they're shipping it to the United States and putting a stamp of Donald Trump's face on the asbestos. It's a true story. They're putting a stamp of his face as it comes into the country. Now, here's the point. Here's what the EPA knows. They know that mesothelioma is a cancer that kills long period of time. It's big latency. Sometimes it's 20, 30 years. They understand that what it does, the cancer grows in such a way, person doesn't really know it until it starts crushing their lungs. The asbestos causes a scar-based cancer. It actually starts crushing the lungs. And once the mesothelioma cancer takes over, there is no cure. I mean, new lungs is the only thing that's going to save you. They understand that a person dying of asbestos cancer, asbestos-related cancer, it's a particularly slow, horrible death. EPA knows this. The people that are allowing this to happen, there is tons of material. And here's what else they know. They know that the industry, when they started putting this out in 1930s, was where really when we first started seeing it, there's some documents that are called the Sumner-Simpson documents. And the corporate executives in those documents say, these men are going to make a good living with asbestos. They can die with asbestos. So Trump is saying, yeah, this is a good idea. Let's bring it back into the country.
And this EPA that is now 100% an arm of industry says, you know what? Let's bring it back into the United States, one of the only countries where it's not outright banned, and let people get exposed. 40,000 a year are dying from this already, as it is right now.
Yeah, so this was kind of Pruitt's last gift.
Yeah.
Here we're going to now not only going to do away with clean air, we're now going to poison people again. We're going to cause horrible disease with asbestos.